To the moon and back. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name's Neil, where we keep technical analysis short and sweet. Sorry I did this video once before, but it did not record, so this may not be as informative. But we're looking at Bitcoin. We can expect Bitcoin to potentially have a further retracement, as it is pretty far away from that 200 EMA. Going back in time, when we're looking at Bitcoin in a previous date, Bitcoin right here, and we're looking at the 4-hour. I like to look at this area as this green line was the all-time high. We touched that all-time high, had a retracement to the 200 EMA, and then we broke up over that high, and we had a little bit of consolidation and upward momentum, holding above the CM guppy in the blue, and then having a continuation. It did not come back down and touch the 200 EMA, but when we're looking at it over here, that is still possible for it to come back, retest this 200 EMA before ultimately taking off, as we cannot hit a straight line up. We want to see a slower consolidation and movement upwards personally, but it is possible. Moving over to IOTX real quick. IOTX is building a similar pattern to a lot of the other charts we will look at. And we see that it broke over this downward trend line, had that push up, a little bit of consolidation. We mainly just need to break this area around the 3 cent mark. And when we start building in a pattern here, we can see a downward trend line and an upward trend line. We just need to hold within this range and break above this area. If not, we may be coming down and testing this black trend line again, depending on if Bitcoin crashes a little bit more. Moving over to GRT real quick. GRT formed a similar pattern. Once it broke that high and held, it pushed out of that downward trend line and is building a little bit of consolidation. Going to test this as support around the 10 cent mark. However, it does have a very long way to go to be hitting this downward trend line, which is around 115% increase. But this is the next major resistance line. However, looking at a bigger picture, when we're looking at the daily for GRT, it does have a very long way to go to be hitting the top all the way up here at 350, I believe, from a 10-cent investment. So instead of turning nickels and dimes, turning dimes into dollars, but it is at a very low point. It is a potential good investment, not an investment or financial advice, but now would not be a bad time to be looking at GRT. Comparing that to math, math is still in a downward phase. However, it is building above the 200 EMA and building some support there, but there are better coins to be investing in, as this does have a lower low. But whenever we look at this on an inverse chart, flipping this over to invert scale, we see that it is losing a lot of pressure in this area, and we are starting to decrease in price. In this case, it is increase in price, and we could be seeing it push back upwards on inverting that. Somebody had asked me about wormhole. I'll bring it in, but I'm personally sticking out of it for a while, as I'd like to see a little bit more information, as we are getting a little bit higher highs and higher lows. But I think this is going to retrace a little bit more with the rest of the market if Bitcoin starts to pull back a bit. So Toshi also forming a similar pattern. You can see that it came back, tested around the 200 EMA, started pushing up. We could see this in another bull pendant, something like this, which will bring me to the next coin, XRP. If it stays within this triangle roughly, we need it to break this and break that before a full major push up. It is Coinbase's meme coin, keeping that in mind. We are actually going to move on over to XRP. XLM is in my other video. We made a very nice, I believe it was 80% increase out of the 120 if you're in my trading channel. And we see that XRP pushed out of its triangle. It's trying to hold it as support, currently around almost $3. And it is looking very, very nice, holding above the blue and the CM guppy, trying to keep the 200 EMA close. It does look a little bit overbought in this area, but with that overboughtness, we can start seeing this push up heavily. We see that I had these two orange lines marked out here for June and July, that some major news would be happening, and it did happen. So we held support off the 2.6, which was very important to hold, and we are going to see a bullish continuation, most likely for XRP. I don't know what else to tell you except keep stacking your bag for XRP. If you're winning money in other coins, stack a little bit more on XRP. It's going to be secure. However, it will have a retracement, I believe, around $5, $7, $12, and $25, but that is a very substantial gain from this $3 investment that you could be looking at. Moving over to compound, and then XCN as a final compound pushed up over that downward trend line. We may see it hold it as support, keeping the 200 EMA a little bit closer. It is moving back in on the RSI, which is nice to see. Volume is picking up, price is increasing. Compound at $50, all-time high of around $560. So not a very bad investment for compound for the risk to reward ratio, as it is still at a very low point. Our previous entry was here around $46, a sell around $60, and we came all the way back down to $40 before re-entering back wherever we had our first entry, completing this inverse head and shoulders. As you can see, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, broke out, test this as support, move up to 6-1 before ultimately pushing beyond. You're going to really regret not putting in $50 to make over half a grand. Not financial advice, just keep it in mind. And then XCN, everybody's favorite. XCN had that amazing downward triangle whenever we're looking at the bigger picture. I said, do not worry, do not panic within this area. If it breaks down on this lower trend line, definitely consider worrying and panicking, but it could be a false breakout. But it did not break that. It pushed back up over to that downward trend line here and pushed over the 200 EMA, came, test that trend line as support multiple times, and it did hold it as support before pushing back up over the 200 EMA. Now is holding the blue lines as the CM guppy as support, as well as holding the 200 EMA, trying to keep it healthy, keep that 200 EMA close. Volume is picking up, price is picking up, and we are currently around almost 2 cents, an all-time high of 18 cents. That is over 9x your money. If you missed the 2,000% pump previously, XCN still has a long way to go, as we are looking at this at the bigger picture, not the smaller picture, removing everything. It is a beautiful chart. We could imagine seeing this being a major cup, major handle pushing up. Once it breaks that 4 to 5 cent mark, it is going to be pushing up to 10 cents, then 18 cents, and beyond. So that's it for today. Definitely reference links in the below, or links in the reference below. Mexi Grass token for free money, Coinbase, KuCoin, Rollercoin. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name's Neil. Good luck and have fun with it.